He's fucking talking again on Twitter, ladies and gents. He's talking again on Twitter. I ain't talking about Donald Trump. McGregor, he's not even on Twitter. He's talking on Twitter. He's talking on Instagram. Motherfucker said he's getting tested in February and he's coming back. Now, when you come back and start getting tested in USADA, once you go back into the USADA, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to this podcast, aka the Kevin Hoop Show, the Kevin Hoops Podcast. I think I'm going to be going with the Kevin Hoop Show, but welcome to the show. We're going to be having a nice little podcast here today, or show. And, I don't know what's up with the UFC lately, but the cards are just changing left and right. It's almost becoming a normal that, we just have a UFC card changing or a UFC card that gets canceled, or I don't think it's necessarily a good look. We had, I believe it was 2 or 3 months ago, the card with Nate Diaz and Khamzat Chimaev. That whole card got changed. Basically, the entire card got mixed up, all because Khamzat Chimaev missed weight. And now it's just happening again and again. But before we go over some of the current news, hopefully you guys had a good week. I do want to shout out anchor.fm/the Kevin Hoops Podcast. That's where the audio version is being uploaded to the podcast. So if you guys are on the go, if you're doing something, if you're driving, if you're going to work, if you're at work, and you can only listen to an audio version, this version of the podcast is going to be the same exact episode is going to be uploaded onto a podcast audio form. So you guys can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, you'll be able to listen to the podcast as well. So if you guys do listen to audio podcasts, feel free to go listen to this over there if you're on the go or doing something and can't listen to it on YouTube. Just want to give that a shout out. And yeah, we also just got done Thanksgiving, so hopefully you guys had a great Thanksgiving. It's freaking Cyber Monday today when this is uploaded. It's freaking Black Friday just got done. I don't even know if Black Friday is still a thing. Freaking, it used to be people go into stores, just rampage and ransack the shit out of it. You have freaking moms fighting for freaking dolls and crazy shit happening on Black Fridays. And I really don't think, is that a thing anymore? Like, are we not using Amazon all the time for our shopping needs? Come on, are we not in the 21st century? But anyways, that's hopefully you guys had a good and safe weekend. That's where we are in the world today. We've got Christmas coming up. I don't think there's any Christmas cards, any Christmas fights on that weekend. We do have the December 10th card, though, which is obviously changing. So for those of you that don't know, I was just talking about it a little bit. The Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira, Jan Blachowicz versus Ankalaev. I actually don't know his first name. I should really figure that out, huh? I should really figure out Ankalaev's first name. Just to be nice. It's kind of an asshole move. Magomed Ankalaev. I could be saying that name wrong. But Magomed Ankalaev versus Jan Blachowicz was not supposed to be the fight that's happening this December 10th. It was supposed to be Yuri Prahovic, I'm probably saying that wrong too, versus Glover Teixeira 2. So, if you guys didn't watch the first fight versus Yuri and Glover, it was a fucking awesome fight. I think it's extremely underrated. I think these two both, I think the second fight was also pretty underrated. And quite frankly, I think it was kind of unfair to strip Yuri of his title. So, Yuri had the title. Glover's ranked number 1. He just lost the title to Yuri in his last fight. And Jan is ranked number 2 in the light heavyweight division. And then it goes Ankalaev, or Magomed Ankalaev, as ranked number 3. So your top 4 guys in the division going into ranking to top 3, the top 3, plus the guy that has the belt. I think it was a smart move for the UFC to keep on, you want to have the fight. But just because Yuri got a shoulder injury, I think that you don't strip him of the belt. I think that that's extremely unfair. I don't know if he's someone who takes a lot of fights. It seems like he's been fighting 2 to 3 times a year at least, or at least 3 times a year. We've seen him, I think, before he fought Glover in the beginning of the year. We saw him then fight in the middle of the year for the belt around summertime when he beat Glover. And now we're seeing him fight again at the end of the year, or we were going to see him fight. And obviously, when you do fight like that, when you fight a lot, you are putting yourself in the possible, in the risk. You're putting yourself in the risk zone, you could say, when you're training, when you're sparring all the time, of getting injured. I freaking get injured or freaking hurt my foot just by running, too much. My right ball of my foot underneath, like right underneath your big toe, it's been hurting like the past 4 or 5 days, all because I was running too much in these 2 days in a row time period that I ran. And it's annoying, but you have to deal with it. And I don't think that it's tough because Yuri knows that he can get injured while he's training. And at the same time, if that happens, which it did, something like this could happen where he gets fucked over. At least for me, he's getting fucked over. Like the dude just won the belt. Let me actually figure out when that fight was. It was June 11th, 2022. And not even 6 months later, the dude is already getting stripped of the belt because of a shoulder injury. Now, if this is how the UFC wants to deal with these types of situations, I get it. At the same time, I don't think if you get an injury, it should be a consequence of you losing your belt. I think it could have been an interim belt. I think an interim belt could have easily been made for something like this. Is that what's going to happen? I don't know. All that I've heard is that it's going to be for the light heavyweight championship, and Yuri has been stripped of his title. I don't know. It's a sad one for me, honestly. And then if you want to bring up things changing again, we have this whole Yuri Prakovic. We have this whole Yuri and Glover situation, basically. And just a week or two ago, Derek Lewis had to take a shit and just canceled the whole entire main event. Like, what the fuck? What are we doing, UFC? Why are we taking steps backwards? You guys were staying open during COVID. Now because someone's got to take a shit and someone's shoulders hurt, we got to strip them of belts and cancel main events? Isn't this the sport where we make shit happen? I'm not saying, make a guy fight with his shoulder hurt, but I'm saying, wait a month, wait 2 months, or let Glover fight for the belt in 1 month. Come on, what are we doing? What are we doing? These guys are obviously smarter than me. They're the one running the business. They're the one who's made this fighting business an actual, real big sport. So I'm sure what they're doing has some backing behind it. It has some thought behind it. I did want to mention that Derek Lewis thing because I heard it was because he had to take a shit. But I remember in one of his interviews he mentioned that he ended the fight fast because he had to take a shit. So I didn't know if that was a miscommunication from the media when they were reporting about it or what the situation was. But there's honestly a lot of fight news that's been released just this past week. And I don't know if it's because of Thanksgiving. I don't know if it's because Christmas is coming up. But my gosh, are people going to be getting paid in the beginning of next year? We're starting off next year hot. I don't know how long you guys have been watching the UFC, but Brandon Moreno versus Davidson Figueiredo has been a constant fucking war between these two. They fought each other 3 times already. And I want to say Davidson Figueiredo lost once, and Brandon Moreno has won twice. Could be wrong on those stats, but let me bring it up real quick. It also says Moreno's the interim champ because of the Kai Kara France fight. View fight history. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, 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 yes. So Moreno has won twice, and Figueiredo. Or wait. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Was the first one a draw? I honestly don't remember. Look, it shows both of them having a belt as well. If you guys look at the thing, both of them have a belt in each of their pictures, which I don't know. I don't see why they would both have a belt unless Figueiredo. Alright, let's go back and go through this. So Moreno beats Formiga and then Royval and then fights Figueiredo, and there's no one that gets a win. So I'm assuming if we go to recap, UFC 256. I don't think anyone won. I believe it was a draw. But you see, they both also are showing a belt in the pictures. It was a very, very close fight, too. You had 147 total strikes versus 139 from Moreno. 2 takedowns from Figueiredo, 4 takedowns from Moreno, and 137 significant strikes from Figueiredo and 132 from Moreno, significant strikes. No knockdowns from each, and Moreno was the underdog. Interesting. So that one was a draw. And then the second one, Moreno won, which that is starting to sound correct in my head now that I'm going over it, which was by submission in round 3. That was June 12th, 2021. So about a year later, maybe 6 months later, unless that was the end of 2020, yeah. So about 6 months later, they fought again, and Moreno wins. Now, about another 6 months later, they fight again in the beginning of this year, January 22nd. Damn. So they're basically fighting a whole year later. Because now they're going to be fighting, I think, January 24th. There's no way it's the same day. It can't be because it's a Saturday, and Saturdays each year are different. But that's like the same ass weekend. It's the 21st they're fighting, I believe. The 21st. Oh, shit. So literally, within a day's difference, a year later, they're going to be fighting again for the belt. Yeah, and then so Figueiredo wins the third one that was in 2022 after Moreno had beat him. And then Moreno goes and fights Kai Kara France, which was an absolute really good fight, and gets the knockout in the third round with not that much time left, honestly. There was not that much time left. So I think the fourth fight is going to be very interesting. When it comes to predictions, I think it could go either way. I think you have two really tough guys, two tough individuals, but at the same time, these guys are at the top of their game. They're super quick. They're light on their feet. Their movement is constant, basically. And it's going to come down to one, if it goes all the way, just who won more rounds. It's going to come down to, all right, well, Brandon Moreno won 3, and it looked like Figueiredo won 2. And obviously you're going to have the rounds where some people thought Moreno won and some people thought Figueiredo won. And that's where it's going to be a toss-up. I think this fight is not only going to be very interesting, but it's probably going to end up in a toss-up. The judges couldn't figure out who won in the first one, And it just seems like I said it ended in submission. How did the one where Figueiredo? It was a decision. So Figueiredo wins by decision in that last bout that they had. So in the third fight they had, it went to a decision. And the first time it went to a decision, it was a draw. So Moreno's already got a submission. Why doesn't he just go for that? I'm sure it's easier said than done. Why doesn't he just go for a submission? I don't know Figueiredo's background. I believe it was striking, but I obviously could be wrong there. But Moreno, obviously, let me see the recap of the third. So Moreno had more takedowns in the first fight. Wow. Figueiredo went for 11 takedowns and only got 2. That's interesting. That is very interesting. And Moreno had more significant strikes by a lot more. 105 to 86. Woo! Moreno looks like he's improved more. If you go for 11 takedowns to me and only get 2, you shouldn't be going for that many fucking takedowns, in my opinion. Now, let me look at this one where it didn't go to decision. And Moreno whooped that ass. I think, honestly, looking at the stats now, I think Moreno is the better fighter. I think if you look at things on paper, Moreno in the first one had 2 more takedowns. It was 2 takedowns to 4. Moreno had 4. Figueiredo outstruck him by like 5 or 6. I said it was like 127 to like 136. In total, insignificant. It was very close. In this second fight, where Brandon Moreno wins, he outstruck him by almost double, 33 to 77. He did outstrike him by more than double. He got 1 more takedown. It was 1 takedown compared to 2, but it was 2 of 2. Went for 2 submission attempts and outstruck him almost by twice as much. It was 24 significant strikes to 47, so literally 1 within doubling him. And then also got 1 knockdown for Brandon Moreno. So obviously Brandon Moreno improves a lot in the second fight. Or maybe Deiveson Figueiredo isn't there or whatever. But then you look at the third fight where Deiveson Figueiredo wins by decision. And for me, Brandon Moreno could have won. Total strikes, he outstruck him by 11. Moreno had 106. Figueiredo had 95. Takedowns, and takedowns can score a little bit more. But if you don't have control of getting a takedown, it's not an effective takedown, in my opinion. Which was the stats on the takedowns where Brandon Moreno was 1 of 2. He went for 2 takedowns and only got 1. Figueiredo was 2 for 11. He went for 11 and only got 2. So not that much more impressive, in my opinion. If anything, Moreno was 50% for takedowns and Figueiredo was 18%. It's a worse stat. Now, significant strikes, Moreno was at 105 and Figueiredo was at 86. Now, knockdowns, Figueiredo got 3. I want to say that there might have been trips or slips in this fight. I don't know if that was a factor. But with the knockdowns, I guess if Figueiredo landed on Moreno and knocked him down, which he might have, I don't remember the fight exactly. I do know that there was some knockdowns and some takedowns and some ground fight in general. I really probably should go rewatch the fights, and I will do that before I do my predictions come the month of January. But honestly, I really just wanted to kind of see what the fight looked like on paper. And honestly, after looking at that, I'm going to have to say Moreno's probably going to bring it. He knows what it's like to lose the belt after attaining it. And Figueiredo's went through that. Figueiredo's been in the game a little bit longer. I think Figueiredo or Moreno's been that up and comer. And honestly, I've been a Brandon Moreno fan, to be honest, ever since he got the belt. He's been a super nice person as well as a really genuine champ. He talks about coming from Mexico. He talks about what he's done and what it means for him to be a champ from Mexico. And I think that's really cool. I think he's a really, awesome champ and really wears the belt well, which I think is hard to do when you get in that sort of limelight. You see some people shine and try and, buy all the jewelry and be flashy with shit. And you have some guys be like Dustin Poirier, who's just a fucking genuine guy and is trying to be trying to better his community. And so let me get this water real quick so I can clear all the fucking cum out of my throat. Sorry, ladies and gents. Had a fun ass week with my Eagles winning. Eagles represent. If you guys watch American football, my Eagles are going to the fucking Super Bowl. Just watch. People are like, oh, we figured out the Eagles. Oh, they lost to the Commanders. The blueprint's exposed. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, get the fuck out of here. People been saying that about, like, Jon Jones with Alexander Gustafsson. Jon Jones ain't losing to Alexander Gustafsson, and no one has figured out Jon Jones since then. So, it's just not going to... And speaking of Jon Jones, I did bring that up, trying to be a little transition, trying to be a little cool with the transition. Didn't really work the way I wanted it to, but there is news about Jon Jones returning if you guys live under a fucking rock. Now, there's a lot of... We haven't seen Francis Ngannou. When's the last time we fucking saw Francis Ngannou fight? Like, what the fuck? I'm pretty sure Dana didn't even put the belt around him after he won, and there was controversy about that because Dana White always does that for people. Oh, jeez. Come on. Why can't... What, I can't even hit on Francis Ngannou's name? Okay, no, you can. That was about to be a little weird. Yeah, so he actually fought on the same time that Brandon Moreno and Davidson Figueiredo fought. They fought on the same freaking card. Wow, January last year it started off pretty hot. And I think, we're starting off pretty hot as well with February, I think. There's only like a 2 or 3 week difference from that January pay-per-view to then the transition to the February pay-per-view, which is then a title fight. It's going to be interesting. I think they're trying to not show title versus title fights a lot more, but they're trying to have 2 titles on a card in the beginning of the year more. You want to have your main event and co-main event trying both of them be title fights, then you just have more of an audience in the beginning of the year, which then carries down for the rest of the year. I think you want to start off the year hot. And Francis Ngannou started off the year hot, and we haven't seen him since. And it's about to be a whole last year, and we're not going to see him. But I did bring up Jon Jones first, and the whole Steve Bay versus Jon Jones has been going on probably before Jon Jones retired, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, however long that it was. Honestly, I think Steve Bay is done. I think those Ngannou wars were probably a lot for him, and that as they should be. I think they would be a lot for anyone, and getting hit by that dude is probably like getting hit by a fucking car, basically. It's probably very similar injuries. The question is, though, with bringing up Jon Jones, is what his next fight's going to be. And there's been rumors about Curtis Blades, which I don't think it would be as interesting as people may seem. I think it would just be kind of a stomping match for Jon Jones. It would be... Jon Jones isn't the guy that needs a warm-up. He doesn't need a warm-up. He doesn't need to get the ring rust out. This dude has taken a long break and come back and looked like he hasn't taken a break at all. And he's also won a belt, defended the belt without even training or doing any sparring, and said he's beat Daniel Cormier doing coke leading up to the fight. Like, come on. The dude is just a different animal. Okay? He's just a different breed. So I think he's already looking like the biggest freaking Jon Jones we've ever seen him, comparable to the Hulk. And now he's just going to come in and fight a number 3 Curtis Blades, who's already lost how many times? And not anything against Curtis Blades. I could actually be wrong about how many times he's lost. He might have, only lost a few times. Oh, looking good, actually. I might be speaking out of pocket. Might be speaking. Alright, so he lost to Ngannou in the beginning of his career. Wow, he's actually has a pretty impressive career. Shut the fuck up. Yeah, I should definitely shut the fuck up. So, Blades has only lost, from what I see, since 2016, which his first fight looks like it was against Ngannou. The dude's lost like twice. So he's lost to Ngannou twice. And then the fight with Volkov looks like it was a draw, maybe. Maybe a no contest. He did lose to Derek Lewis. So 2 losses. But see, then he fights. Damn, Rosenstrike and Derek Lewis look very similar in these pictures. That shit's kind of fucked up. They look almost very similar. If Derek Lewis had a thicker beard in this picture on here, you'd say they was fucking twins. So he's lost to Ngannou twice, lost to Derek Lewis, that's 3, and a no contest with Blades, 4. But then you're looking at Jon Jones, who's never fucking lost against top people and has beat DC, who was a heavyweight champion. I think it's going to be interesting to see if that fight happens. I think it's going to be Jon Jones walking through him, but you never know what you could see at heavyweight. That's the whole entertainment aspect of a heavyweight fight that I think a lot of people will forget. And it's people will get knocked out whenever, which is already a part of the UFC, but it happens even more in that heavyweight division. It's always interesting to watch those heavyweights to see if that'll happen. And I don't think you necessarily have that potential with Jon Jones. He's going to be more technical. He's going to be more managing the distance well. But with Curtis Blades, I definitely think you can see that. He's got 13 knockouts, I think. 13 of his 12 wins by knockout. I was one off. He is on a 3-fight win streak, though, so that is on his side. He just fought July 23rd. That is looking good for him. There's no way, though, if you that fight would have to be the main event of a fight night, which is highly unlikely. I doubt you do that fight when it's not on pay-per-view with Jon Jones. Jon Jones has to be on pay-per-view. And that also brings into question, when's the last time you saw Jon Jones that wasn't in the main event or fighting for a title? Maybe when he was coming back into the UFC and fighting for the light heavyweight belt again the second time after he got suspended. But I just think that's unrealistic, to be honest. I really don't think you're going to see him not be on the main event. So I think you're going to see Jon Jones versus Ngannou. Because Blades is ranked number 3. Under that, you have Cyril Gane. And then you have Stipe. And Stipe's talking about not fighting anymore. Maybe you have Tai Tuivasa versus Curtis Blades. I would like that matchup, actually. Tai Tuivasa versus Curtis Blades, 3 and 4. Maybe the winner of that fights Jon Jones or Wait. What about Cyril Gane versus Jon Jones? I kind of like that. And I think it's just, what the UFC are in talks to. And it looks like it's Curtis Blades right now. But how come we're not looking at Cyril Gane versus Jon Jones? I think that would be very interesting. That would be super interesting. If you have Cyril Gane versus Jon Jones, you have a very technical boxer in Cyril Gane versus one of the most, if not the most technical MMA managing the distance fighter that the UFC has ever seen. So what are we doing here, people? What are we freaking doing with our dicks in our hands? Let's make the fucking good fight here before things get mixy and people are all like, oh no, I don't want to fight him. Oh no, it's been too long. Oh no, I want more money. Blah, 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 blah. Come on! Let's be smart about this. Let's take action. I think, like I said, you have now. This is what the whole thought process that Steve Bay retires. I guess dude is getting old. He's taking some shots from Francis Ngannou. I understand. Let's say Jon Jones comes back, fights Cyril Gane because he's really good. You don't see Jon Jones not fight a number one contender or for the title when he comes back, I think. That's just me thinking of it from a Jon Jones perspective, a paying perspective of how much money he wants. So either you're going to see Jon Jones Francis or you're going to see Jon Jones versus one of these top guys, which could be Steve Bay, but again, we're going with he's all retired right now if that actually happens. I think Jon Jones versus Cyril Gane is the next best thing if Francis doesn't happen. Cyril Gane's probably, if he didn't fight the way he fought, which is one of the biggest things I hate. I think Francis versus Cyril Gane had the potential to be one of the greatest heavyweight fights we've ever seen in the UFC. And then Cyril Gane just doesn't throw his hands. And, whatever that may be, I still think that would be a good fight if Jon Jones were to come back. If you were to fight Cyril Gane, you're going to have a Cyril Gane who wants to get back and fight Francis. And knows how big Jon Jones is. He's definitely fucking big right now. He's gotten bigger. But knows how good and technical Jon Jones is. And I think technically, when it comes to technique from both sides, it's going to be a really good fight. And you might see Jon Jones slip. Maybe that's why they're. I think I just figured it out, ladies and gents. You probably don't want to feed Jon Jones to someone who's fucking on the ball right now. Cyril Gane's dialed the fuck in. Jon Jones has been off his fucking game for 3 years and has not been looking good even when he was back in the UFC. And yeah, there's the whole he's fighting killers like Dominic Reyes and Anthony Smith and people that are also look really good and can make him look less good as well. But that makes sense to me why they maybe wouldn't throw him Cyril Gane right away. And maybe someone like Curtis Blades. And at the same time, if you can't beat Curtis Blades, sorry for that. If you can't beat Curtis Blades, though, who has lost to Francis, I said 2 or 3 times, you're definitely not going to be able to beat Francis then. So in order to beat Francis, you definitely got to be able to beat Curtis Blades just from a looking at fighters on paper perspective. But I do think Cyril Gane versus Jon Jones, the winner of that fights Francis, and then you have Curtis Blades versus Tai Tuivasa, and the winner of that fights the loser or winner of the Francis versus Jon, or Cyril Gane versus Jon, and you know what I'm saying. Basically, here, ready? I'll lay out the whole heavyweight division, the future of it for the next year. First fight we're gonna see: Jon Jones comes back and fights Cyril Gane, right? Even though a lot of people are talking Curtis Blades, people don't know shit. It's gonna be Cyril Gane. Just watch. And then Steve Bates retires. Curtis Blades fights Tai Tuivasa, right? The winner of Curtis Blades versus Tai Tuivasa is probably going to fight Cyril Gane because he's probably going to lose to Jon Jones. Jon Jones is going to go fight Francis. And then the loser of Francis probably fights the loser of the Cyril Gane, Tai Tuivasa, Curtis Blades whole mix-up. And then the winner of that Curtis Blades, Tai Tuivasa, Cyril Gane mix-up fights the winner of Jon versus Francis. If that made sense for you guys, good. If not, we're moving the fuck on. I spent way too long on that fucking topic than I wanted to. What else did I want to talk about, though? What else did I want to talk about? I did want to talk about the Jan versus Magomed and Ankalaev. I do think that's going to be a good fight. I do think that that's going to be a good fight. I don't know necessarily. So, I do know necessarily why this happened. Yuri, I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the fucking video, but, we get sidetracked here a little bit. Yuri gets injured, his shoulder injury. Yuri then is like, yeah, you ain't fighting for the belt. UFC already makes that decision for him. Did I like that? Whatever. There's probably going to be an interim belt. Who knows? They then go to Glover Teixeira and skip over Jan Blachowicz because these guys are both, for those of you that don't know, they're both above 40. If not, Glover's above 40 and Jan's getting there. So they go to Glover Teixeira and offer him Magomed Ankalaev, not Jan Blachowicz. Glover Teixeira says, I don't want Magomed because that's too short and a very hard opponent. I need more time to prepare for that. Why don't I just fight Jan Blachowicz because I'll be able to fight someone that's more around my age in that short of a time period. Makes sense when it comes down to, putting things on paper. UFC says that fight will not be fucking entertaining. Go home or fight Magomed Ankalaev right now. Glover Teixeira says, I'll fight him at the end of January. I'm not going to fight him this week. Sorry. UFC says, all right, well, we're moving on. They go to Jan Blachowicz, offer him Magomed Ankalaev, I guess, or they go to Magomed Ankalaev and offer him Jan Blachowicz, vice versa. And they both said yes. I think no matter who you are, Glover Teixeira could have taken the fight, and he didn't. And whether that's because he wants to stay at that number 1, number 2 spot and be in the talks to fight next, I think in this business you have to take your opportunities when they're given to you. And Glover Teixeira has been given this opportunity. I guess I'm assuming there was a rematch clause in his contract. There usually always is with a title fight, no matter who you are. Unless, you just get the belt. But he was defending the belt. And because of that, he was getting a rematch with Yuri. And it was a good fight. The Yuri versus Glover fight, I think, was going to be another 5-round war unless someone got caught. And I'm not saying Jan versus Magomed is going to be more unentertaining. But my gosh. I got myself so hyped up because I didn't watch the first one. I didn't watch the first one when it happened. I watched the first one after the fact and was really bummed out that I didn't watch it live. And with that, I was ready to watch Yuri vs. Glover Teixeira 2 fucking live December 10th. Why do fucking injuries have to happen, bro? It's such bullshit, damn. I mean, it's not bullshit. It happens. And maybe we do see Yuri versus Glover again, and then the winner of that will fight Jan versus Magomed. The winner of that, whoever gets the belt. I just think it's going to be a little flopped with rankings. The 2 and 3 are fighting for the belt when the guy who has the belt hasn't lost it to 2 or 3. He's not going to lose it to 2 or 3. That's where I'm a little upset about things. But it's a fight game. What are you going to fucking do? You going to fucking sit around and cry about shit? No. You're going to fucking shut up and keep on moving the fuck on. So moving on to my next fucking topic. There's all this fucking talk. He's fucking talking again on Twitter, ladies and gents. He's talking again on Twitter. I ain't talking about Donald Trump. McGregor, he's not even on Twitter. He's talking on Twitter. He's talking on Instagram. Motherfucker said he's getting tested in February and he's coming back. Now, when you come back and start getting tested in USADA, once you go back into the USADA pool and are getting tested constantly, it takes, I believe their testing rules are they have to test you for 6 months before you are allowed to fight into the UFC or allowed to fight in the UFC. You have to be tested by USADA for 6 months. I don't know if you guys have seen pictures of Connor McGregor lately, but that motherfucker's on some steroids. I don't know if it's testosterone. I don't know what if TRT. I don't know what the fuck it is. I don't know if it's Anavar, fucking EPO. I don't know what it is, but it's that good shit, and he is big. That motherfucker is looking at 170 or 185 when he comes back. One of the two. I don't know, but I'm excited to see because I want to pull up a picture. I'll try and do it for the editing, but oh my god. The dude is fucking humongous. Let me go to my Twitter. I don't know if I'm signed into my Twitter on here. No, I can go to my Instagram. I think I'm signed into Instagram on here. But if you guys don't know what Conor McGregor looks like right now, go on to your Instagram and search. Just search Conor space McGregor. Right now I'm going to do the same thing. Conor McGregor. Go to the 27. I wanted to see what the regular, like, everyday pictures were going to be. Scroll down just a little bit. I'm sure he's got a shirtless picture somewhere of him. Oh wait, there's almost a picture over the right. Just look at the picture of him in the car where he looks high as shit with the gray shirt. His neck looks 3 times as big as it was when he was fighting at 155, and that's without a beard. The dude with the beard looked like a freaking lumberjack. Here's one. Let's see. 3 weeks ago. Father-son work. Crazy. The dude's legs, they look like tree trunks. His arms look like freaking logs. It's crazy. Alright, enough about me dick riding Conor McGregor's fucking dick about how big he looks. But I'm just trying to make a point, ladies and gents, where the dude has definitely been... He's got a plan for something. I really wish my buddy was here to talk about this because he brought it up earlier. Or maybe I brought it up. I think he brought up the fact that it's hard for someone to fight when they have a lot of money like that, which I understand. The point I wanted to bring up and did bring up when I was talking to him about it was it's at the same time you can lose the passion. I think if enough time has gone by, you're going to find that passion again. You're going to reignite that fire. Because while you are losing your passion, while Conor McGregor was losing his skills in fighting because he was gaining so much money and going out and buying all these yachts and cars and watches and fucking all the bitches and drinking all the whiskey and fighting all the old grandpas and throwing whatever fucking parties he wanted to throw. While he was busy and losing his interest in fighting. It's a pendulum. Here's the interest in partying and doing other activities and the thing of fighting. And when it hits a certain point, when he has done it all, he starts to lose interest. And the passion for fighting rises again. Because he's done it all. He's bought it all. He's fucked them all. He has done everything he's wanted to do. And what is he at the end of the day? What is he at his roots? And I think the answer to that question, only he can answer, number one. But if I were to answer it for him, I want to say a fighter. I want to say someone who's going to come back to the UFC and do something that's never been done before. because that is what he did before. And I think it also takes someone like Conor McGregor to do what he did and change the game like he did. He had to think of something that no one has ever done in the UFC. You have to think of the unthinkable. And maybe he's thought of the unthinkable again. I like to think of him in that sort of sense of that one-time fighter that we don't get to see a lot, like Mike Tyson. Am I blowing smoke up your ass? Abso-fucking-lutely. Is he blowing up smoke everyone else's ass? Abso-fucking-lutely. What are we gonna do? I think it's gonna be interesting to see him come back, no matter when it is or who it is. I think he's always gonna be an interesting fighter, just because that is Conor McGregor. At the end of the day, he is an entertaining motherfucking person. I think the biggest question is when is he gonna come back? I think it was in 2021. He came back around February, and he's talking about he himself tweeted out or said in an Instagram caption. I'm 99% sure it was a tweet. He tweeted out that he is getting tested in February by USADA. 110%, that's confirmed from him, he said. Now, he still could be lying, but if you're trying to have a good reputation and saying you're coming back to the UFC, you don't want to have a boy who cried wolf type of situation, because then you're just really going to be getting interest lost in your reputation and in your fighting in general. So, if we can do some math here, ladies and gentlemen, February is the second month out of the year, and that brings us to August. Maybe July if they're nice with him. I doubt that. But if we do see him in that summertime time period, I think it wouldn't be bad. I think that's usually when a lot of big fights happen. And if he fights, it might be it might be pushing it a little bit. But if you are smart, which the UFC is, you want to be planning for the following year. These guys plan out events months and months in advance, sometimes even not years in advance. But for other people planning events, comedians plan out events a year in advance all the time. That shit happens very frequently. You see that a lot. So if the UFC were to be smart about Conor McGregor coming back and trying to, maybe build him up a little bit, hey, Conor, what's your goal right now? Do you want to come back and get a belt? Let's say they have that discussion with him. If they do, and if they figure out, well, he wants to fight more frequently. He wants to fight 2 or 3 times a year. Well, you see this big matchup in the beginning of this January and February time period with Brandon Moreno, Davidson Figueiredo number 4 in the end of January, followed by 2 or 3 weeks later a double title fight with Alexander Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev. Well, Conor McGregor fights middle of the year, maybe end of the summer of 2023, and then fights again end of 2023, beginning of 2024 to set it off real well if he wins. If he's starting to come back and gaining a lot of traction again, like he does all the time. Now again, I'm just saying I'm a little smart. If you were to think a little smart with the UFC, that's what you would do. I'm not there. I'm not working at the UFC. I'm not saying they shouldn't fucking hire me, but hey, my business email. No, I'm just kidding, but I do think that that's the way you have to think about these things, because there is a lot of other fights possible in the UFC. If you guys I heard that there might be 1,000 people on the UFC fighters. There might be 1,000 fighters on the UFC roster. I'm not talking UFC employees. I'm talking about 1,000 fighters on the UFC. Now there's 15 people ranked in the division, and then however many divisions there are. Let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, including women's, 13. Even though no one's in the featherweight. 13 times 15. Let's do some quick math. That's like over 125. It's like 150. 195. I'm sorry. Way the fuck off. 195. Almost 200 people just on the top 15 in every weight division. So with 600 people in the fucking roster, it's definitely a lot of fights that you gotta have. Who knows though? Who knows? We haven't seen Francis fight in a while. We're not gonna see Yuri fight. Leon Edwards has to come back and fight Usman. Who knows when we're gonna see Islam fight? I know there was some talk about Islam. I won't even get into that. That'll be that's a topic for a different time. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I think I have just about reached around my time limit, though, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. If you guys did, let me know in the comments below, whether it's about Connor, whether it's about this next upcoming fight with Jan and Magomed Ankalaev, I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, or the upcoming fight with Brandon and Davidson Figueiredo in January, or the Islam and Volkanovski fight in February. Let me know who you guys think is going to win. Let me know who you guys think is going to be fighting next. Let me know if you guys think if Jon Jones is coming back. Let me fucking know what you're thinking, alright? I'm getting tired of these comments just being fucking steel horses and my cousin using my other fucking little account, alright? Needs to be some more people that haven't, I don't know. I love it when you guys talk to me in the comments. Excuse me. But with that, have a great motherfucking day. Actually, before I do that, I do want to quickly say, we're going to quickly shout out again the anchor.fm/the Kevin Hoops podcast. If you guys listen to audio or, go to work and listen to podcasts while you're driving, or, you have Spotify or Apple Podcasts, which everyone nowadays does. If you have an iPhone, you have Apple Podcasts. Search the Kevin Hoops podcast. It will come up with me smashing, I think an Xbox and a PlayStation. I still have to change that. But if you guys listen to audio versions of podcasts, this is available in the same audio version. I'm saying the same exact things, just only in an audio version. So even if you guys just want to follow that to be updated later in the future of when I do upload, these are uploading every Monday. So go and follow those channels over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you listen to the audio versions. And with that, have a great motherfucking day.